The tanking role quest in Dawntrail is a bit silly, but to be honest, all of the role quests are. Each quest revolves around reclaiming a stolen artifact from a Turali tribe. These artifacts are connected to ancient Tural vidrals, each one holding immense magical power. The thieves, though, are a group called Passage of the Unbound, and this secretive and very villainous order held its first meeting quite loudly at a local eatery. It is led by Abyahi, and this band of cartoonist villains stolen these magical artifacts around Tural, and then they plan to go around the world and sow discord, allowing each role to go on their own unique adventure of pure nonsense, and it is actually quite fun. In the tanking quest, we start by speaking with Losenique, who is seeking out a tank. She hails from the north of Tural, an area steeped in cold. Her people have for a long time revered the Tural Vidral of the Narval. It is said that this mystical Narval swam through the icy depths to protect their home from harm, and it would do so without sleep. Instead, it would force others to sleep, and that way, the Narval could stay awake and guard the land forever. The Narval's essence is now sealed within an artifact known as the Cradle of the Sleepless. The artifact has the ability to put someone to sleep, whether they want it or not, and while they sleep, the artifact bearer stays awake, living without sleep or fatigue. The village utilizes a pair of guardians, the White Eye, who never sleeps and protects the village, and the Shut Eye, who sleeps almost all of their life away, so the White Eye can stay awake. Losenique is one of the Shut Eyes, but as you can see, she is awake. The White Eye she is linked to is Tenatoa. He has crossed the ocean in search of the stolen cradle, but Losenique is worried. She fears he might get himself hurt or, well, worse. After all, he is not immune to the cradle's power, and this dude hasn't slept for like years. So what will happen when he falls asleep, we don't know. So naturally, we agree to help out, promising to both find the artifact and keep her friends safe. To find Tenotava, we must go to Ishgard, where we find him struggling to get along with the locals. These guardians have a certain ways of doing things, and Tenotava doesn't quite know the rules of politeness here. Thankfully, we have made some friends in the city and can help smooth things over and start gathering some information. We start by asking around for the thief. She was an Ellison woman with a fiery red hair, a scar on her forehead, and a mole above her lip. When she came to the village, she apparently posed as a scholar, but she showed signs of being a great warrior. So naturally, when looking for warriors within Ishgard, we go to the knights of the congregation. And there, we meet Irmalbert, a knight who tells us that yes, he does know who we are talking about. This description matches a woman named Leofine. She was once born into Ishgardian nobility and had a promising career as a temple knight. She was an exceptional warrior, and her future seemed bright until her gambling problem took over. Long nights at the gambling halls left her sleep deprived, and it all came to head when she fell asleep on guard duty, leading to the death of several of her allies. And for this transgression, she was expelled in shame. Now it makes sense why she would steal this artifact. The Narval power could ensure she never has to sleep again, avoiding the very thing that drew into life. But nobody knows what happened to her after her expulsion. She simply vanished, and her current whereabouts are unknown. So we decide that for now we just have to wait. The best sign to find her would be people sleeping where they should not be sleeping. Thankfully, Firmalbert does return with some promising news. Someone matching Leofine's description has been spotted near Camp Dragonhead. When we go there, they tell us that yes, somebody fitting her description was last seen heading south, but before we can go there, we get a word of an attack on a supply shipment west of the observatorium. Tentoava immediately volunteers us to assist, and naturally we join him. When we arrive, we find a group of knights battling for their lives, but also 2 knights fast asleep in the midst of all of this chaos. After we fend off the beast and wake the knights, They insist they would never fall asleep on duty. Yet somehow they did. And it's quite clear to us that this is Leofine's doing. Unfortunately, she has already fled, so we return to Ishgard and report to Filmalbert. Tentuava explains that the knights were victims of the artifact, and the sleep was beyond their control. And yet, Filmalbert insists that the knights must be punished for letting the enemy get the better of them. This doesn't feel very fair. Later on, we end up joining the knights from House Durendare on a patrol to the ruins of Gorgan Mill, a place we visited during Heavensward. When we arrive, we find more sleeping knights. Tentuava rushes to tend to them while we investigate the nearby buildings. And it's not long before we hear shouts. The two House Durendare scouts are under attack by thugs, and we quickly step in to take care of the threat. But as we return outside, we finally spot her. Leofine is here. Tentuava is demanding the artifact back, but she remains stubborn. She is determined to humiliate the Temple Knights, just as she was humiliated. Though in truth, her fall was caused by her own negligence, and she's just being a bit of an ass. Tentuava is disgusted by her actions and tries to retrieve the artifact, but instead he is struck by its power and falls asleep for the first time in years. We watch helplessly as Leofine seems to gain some energy from this, and then she slips away. After all, we can't follow her and leave Tentuava sleeping in the snow. And no matter what we do, he won't wake up. Thankfully, the other knights begin to recover and help us carry Tentuava back to the congregation, where he can be watched over and protected. It is sometime later we return to find Tentuava still fast asleep, leaving us uncertain of what to do next. Thankfully, Loasenique has traveled to Ishgard out of concern for her friend, and she knows exactly how to help. In the past, occasionally shut-eyes have fallen into inescapable slumber, but there is a mixture to wake them up. So we are sent off to gather the ingredients, which turns out to be dandelion and morbol saliva. Needless to say, one of those was far less pleasant to obtain than the other. When we return with the ingredients, she brews the mixture and gives it to the sleeping Tentuava. I wonder if it's actually the effect of the concoction or simply the horrifying taste that ends up waking Tentuava, but at least he wakes up and he tells us he's had a change of heart. He wants to break free from the rigid tradition, from the shut-eye and the wide-eye roles in the village. He wants to live a normal life with Loasenique. But he has also learned something important from this experience. When he woke up, he felt weaker than before. It seems the artifact doesn't simply transfer the user's fatigue to the shut-eye. It actually seems to drain the shut-eye's ether, transferring it to the wide-eye instead. If Leofine were to use the artifact without restraint, it could prove deadly. We immediately resume the search for Leofine, while Tentuava takes time to recover. But no matter how hard we searched, there is no sign of her. Eventually, Tentuava has regained enough strength to rejoin the investigation, though he's not fully back to normal. Having no idea where Leofine is, we start digging into her past instead. We find some of her former squad and learn about how she fell asleep on duty. But as we're speaking to them, we also learn that the Temple Knights are soon to accompany a delegation to Oxundu on a diplomatic mission with the Vanuatu. We quickly realize this must be where Leofine's next target is. It's an ideal opportunity to shame the Knights, not just before their own people, but also their allies. With this realization, plans are set in motion to trap Leofine. On the day of the visit, the Vanuatu have been informed of her likely interference, and everyone is on high alert for any tricks she might have up her sleeve. We are sent to Oxundu ahead of the delegation, where we meet with Sonuvanu. They are eager to welcome the Ishgardian visitors. However, before they arrive, one of the Sundu warriors rushes over to inform us that the Ishgardian airship has fallen from the sky, near where the Vanuatu were practicing the Sundrop dance. Suspecting Leofine's involvement, we quickly make our way to the crash site to assist the fallen knights. We do find knights asleep there, but the Vanu decide to do the sun-drop dance to help with waking them up. So we protect our feathery friends and finally get the chance to battle Leofine. She uses every dirty trick she knows, but in the end, as she is nearly defeated, she uses her artifact again. As he unleashes the artifact's power, we are caught in its effect. The exhaustion is immediate and overwhelming, and we collapse into a deep slumber. As we lie unconscious, the battle continues, and it ends with Leofine eventually falling off the floating island. We are woken up by our friends from Tural, Ishgard, and Oxundu. While the meeting didn't go as planned, the bond between Ishgard and the Vanu has grown stronger. With the artifact finally recovered, we then return to Tural alongside Tanotava and Loasenique. The Cradle of the Sleepless is back with its rightful owners at last. However, the pair have decided that it's time for a change in their village. They wish to forge new relationship with the neighboring villages, so they can rely on friendship and cooperation, rather than the Cradle for protection. It won't be an easy journey, requiring an open mind and patience from all involved, but it's the first step towards hopefully a brighter future. And with that, the tanking quest line of Dawntrail comes to an end. Our adventures continue, and soon we'll be taking on the challenge of a healer. If you're excited to see that, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my future lore videos. And while you're there, maybe give me a commentation by liking the video. Finally, all I want to say is takk for að horfa og eigðu yndislegan dag.